Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. Welcome to a wonderful episode. Today's a wonderful episode. I had a lot of fun recording this. I'm recording the intro after the fact, and I really thoroughly had a lot of fun recording this. I have my old buddy, Harry Labana, who one of the main guys over at VMware's EUC now, and he's going to talk about all the new announcements at the VMware just released earlier this week. I think I'm posting this probably Monday, so last week. And I think you guys are really, maybe I'll record it later today. Now, whenever I post it, it's really a fun interview. Harry takes us through everything that's going on within VMware, that they've all their new stuff, explains what it is, gives us his pontificates about futures and his opinions, gives us analogies. Harry's just fun to listen to. And you learn a lot, too. Fun, learn. What's not to love? So with no further ado, no more of my ramblings. Let's get into my interview with Harry Labana talking about what's new with VMware EUC. Hey, Harry, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. You're always one of my favorite people to have on, and you guys, congrats on a launch this week. I know you're a busy man. We'll dive into it, but I have tons of stuff I want to go through with you. So I'll just start throwing it at you, and we'll see where it goes. Sound good?
Sounds good, Doug, and good to be back on the show. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No. Thank you. Pleasure's all mine. As always, for those people who don't know the power of the Harry Labana, can you tell us who are you and what do you do over at VMware?
Okay, so just a quick background. Came from the customer side of things. Spent 15 years on Wall Street. Kind of did the Goldman Sachs thing. Then I was at CTO at Citrix for a while. That AppSense, I was CTO and VP of products. Then I went off and did a couple other things in consulting. Ended up at a startup called Cloud Volumes, which was acquired by VMware, and hence that's how I ended up at VMware. Now at VMware, I'm the title is VP of products. But what I do, what is my job right now? I kind of run basically kind of engineering, and I drive the product across a couple of our portfolio products. So App Volumes, UEM, ThinApp, a lot of the announcements we have done around kind of unified admin consoles, a lot of the new API layer stuff that we're doing around there as well. And, there's like 6 or 7 portfolio products kind of across the management part of the business, right? So that touches many parts of the business because a lot of what I build and my team builds goes into various release trains, right? They go into the Horizon release trains, they go into the virtualization release trains. They also sell as standalone products as well. So a pretty diverse role, kind of, with the team kind of cut across multiple geos. So certainly very, very different to what I've done in the past, but I've always kind of learned, it's good to play different positions on the field as you kind of grow in your own career and learning.
Sure, absolutely. A foot in every door is a good thing. You learn a lot, and you understand your role even better that way. Because nothing is an island anymore, especially in today's world, right?
Sure.
So that being said, before we get going too far, I definitely want to give you guys kudos. I'm quite impressed with the VMware, with what VMware's done over really the past couple of years, and I mean the EUC is just totally firing on all cylinders, and your launch was more than impressive. It just I knew everything I needed to know. Well, I don't know about that. I'm going to learn everything I need to know today, but it was just truly impressive launch. So that being said, what I want to do today is go through that launch and go through the different products you announced and some of the features you guys have highlighted and things like that, and have you sort of explain them to us. Sound good?
Yeah, I will do the best I can.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty good. So if the best you can, I will settle for that. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So first and foremost, digital workspace, VMware Digital Workspace. So this is a new thing, and so I guess what is digital or VMware's digital workspace strategy?
Sure. So look, I'll explain it in my terms, right? I'm going to kind of not do it perhaps.
That's even better. The Harry Labana
right?
VMware Digital Workspace.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, here's what I see it as, right? That people are highly mobile, right? Business leaders understand that the power of mobility, right, and what that means. But you also have employees that are basically requesting access to different kinds of apps, that their behavior is changing. And really, kind of, if you think about that in a very pragmatic way, right? So I don't know what generation we're in, right? But Generation X, right? We were taught a certain way, right? We're kind of the internet generation, right? Or if you want to call it,
I'm a DOS baby. Come on.
Exactly, but you know what I mean, right? So, right? So we were taught that there were certain tools for work, right? So I still remember the day when I used to come to work to go check the internet because I had a better connection at work, right? Because work had a T1 connection and I had my dial-up AOL account at one point in time, right? So those are the tools that we kind of grew up with, right? And desktops and PCs and laptops were the terms that we used, and then later it became, oh yeah, you also get a BlackBerry, and the evolution. I'm sure most of your listeners do as well. And I think as you move forward, those concepts start to kind of crumble a little bit, right? I mean, they're still there, all those things, right? But it's ultimately now people are kind of working across different application types, in my mind. So now, you could use a SaaS app or, a published application or your physical application. All of those represent tools to do, your work and also to live your life, right, on a single device, right? And I think the live your life thing is kind of an important thing not to forget. And how does that all come together, right? So this construct of a desktop, right? This is a shell, it's a workspace. So we have to kind of question, well, what does that mean? Like, what is a desktop, right? What does that mean to somebody coming in? How do I explain what a desktop is to my daughter, right? As an example, she's at school, she uses all sorts of tools. So I think to me, the digital workspace is really, it's just a place where you go to get the stuff that you really need for work. Right, and that could be consumed on a mobile device, a tablet device, a Mac, a PC, whatever that is. And I think the expectation is, well, what's the experience to interact with this space that we call digital workspace, right? How do you connect to it? How does it feel? How simple is it? But it's just a place where you go and to do work. Just like we've kind of have the desktop or the laptop is the place where you go to do the work thing that you do. But the digital workspace is something that's a little bit more intelligent, that really starts to kind of drive this kind of, any app, any device kind of vision, if I go back to kind of more of the kind of the corporate marketing message type of thing.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I process it in my simplistic brain.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned, what generation we're in. I just recently read that in 5 years, millennials will make up 50% of the workforce. And those guys are completely different than you and I. You and I like our keyboards, right? We like our mice. And those guys are, most of those people are mobile first. And I'm not mobile first. I'm mobile when I have to. And as soon as I get in front of a desktop, I'm a happy man. And because I have my keyboard and my mice and my mouse and my big giant monitors. And that really changes things for us in how we design products, and design our offerings as IT people, right? And it's being driven by what? Hyperconvergence, consumerization of IT, BYO even, and all that jazz. And it changes things in a way that I don't think we've seen since really the invention of the personal computer. Am I right by saying that?
Yeah, I think so. And the way I would summarize that, right? It's changing the behavior of corporations.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's a different set of rules, right, and behaviors that are now okay, right? You're allowed to do certain things, and it's expected, and that's going to drive. I think we should say, it's going to redefine how a corporation operates to be productive with its employees, and I think that is going to require a mindset shift and a whole different technology stack. And I think that's really what we're in the kind of process. So we're in this transition phase, right, to go towards that. But that's what's going to be expected.
That's exactly right. In the past, we were able to say, you get a laptop, and that's what you get, and you use our policies, and that's what you get, and you use this app, and that's what you get. And today, it's just not necessarily that way. That the on-demand and service sort of ideology is really forefront. So that being said, let's dive into the next thing is a new product you guys announced, which I think is sort of this. Well, I'll let you describe it. Is VMware Workspace ONE. So what is this? What is this beast?
So Workspace ONE is really kind of the instantiation of the digital workspace, right? And when we think about, what is the digital workspace, at kind of, a high level, right? So digital workspace is comprised of, the desktop type tools that you would want to access, right? Your mobile, various SaaS applications, and then kind of this common fabric between all of those three is what we believe, right? Our point of view is that's identity. So what Workspace ONE is really kind of bringing that together as a suite of offerings, right? And really what Workspace ONE looks at, well, how do you kind of converge, right, all of these solutions together to start to build more integrated solutions for the customer. And really kind of what we've done with Workspace ONE is we've kind of broken it down into like these three offerings, right, different editions of the product. And the way they're priced and packaged is kind of Workspace ONE standard, advanced, and the enterprise edition. But really kind of the underlying technologies and what we really showed this week were, look, we believe that to build this digital workspace experience to kind of work across different application types, you need single sign-on, right? So you need mobile SSO. So, nobody wants to do, two-factor authentication for every single different application type, right? And copying tokens from RSA or whatever you want to do. So that's one key piece there. The other part of that Workspace ONE offering is really talking about access to different types of applications, right? Windows and SaaS type applications. And then we kind of get into, well, we're starting to provide more conditional access and control and DLP around the content that you may want to have access to or work on. And then the next piece of it is really kind of thinking about, well, how do we then integrate that into a beautiful experience, right, in email, right? So the Boxer acquisition we did is kind of integrated into that Workspace ONE SKU as well. So you really kind of, the Workspace ONE gets broken into this standard SKU, which is really about kind of, it contains a common enterprise application catalog, your key productivity apps are in there, and you get your single sign-on. And then you kind of get into, Workspace ONE Advanced, right, which is really about kind of, unified endpoint management and, app security and DLP. And then you kind of eventually going to get to the enterprise SKU, which is all about kind of adding the virtual apps and the desktops together. So I think our point of view on how we go to market, what we sell, so on and so forth, I think you'll see from VMware, we'll start to lead with that Workspace ONE message. And then under the covers, right, it's all of our various technologies in desktop, mobile, and identity, right? Yeah. So because that's what we believe is really what the digital workspace is really about.
So would you classify Workspace ONE as sort of the suite, and then it comes with all the different, Horizon 7, what have you, right? AirWatch, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it does, but I think...
Do you get something, I guess, do you, like for the self-service app or the SSO, SSO is also part of Horizon 7, right? I mean, are there things within the Workspace ONE that you don't get within the individual products if, let's say, you only wanted to do Horizon? Make sense?
A more integrated experience, okay. Right? Okay. Right. I think that's really, really key, and to really kind of think about the experience end to end from what we showed was really kind of the end user experience, but that will eventually flow from end to end, right? How all of these things come together.
And And when you say integrated, that's a really wonderful word, right? It's everyone wants to integrate, yet nobody ever does. And how are you guys actually integrating that?
So, excuse me. It's different, right? Based on different products. So, Workspace ONE standard, right? So it'll come with an enterprise app catalog where you can register, your different application types, right? Single sign-on will work across those different applications. So that's where the integration will come there. I think another kind of, big integration piece is all the work that we've done around App Volumes 3.0, which we can get into, right?
Yep,
But there's a lot of integration there between the different bits and pieces, which were, effectively a bundle last year. And then what you'll see is that as we've done some of these kind of foundational integrations, they'll end up in different release trains, as I kind of talk to my teams internally, right? So you'll start to see those common experiences for App Volumes 3.0 as an example. It'll end up in the Horizon Air, right, or the Horizon hybrid mode. The look and feel will be the same UI, right? You'll start to see it in the standalone products. So there's phases, right, of integration, but I think we've done some really fundamental things that pull it all together.
Now, when you say, over time, what is over time to you guys? And I imagine, when you're talking about SSO and things like that, so like the mobile experience will be SSO or will work with the the VDI experience and what have you when I'm using Workspace ONE, right? So I guess that's really two questions.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the time is like SSO will ship when Workspace ONE ships. It'll ship SSO integration, right? That is kind of the goal, right? And then more broadly speaking, integration. It depends on integration of what, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, right? So with App Volumes 3.0, right, we've announced some level of integration, but you'll see more integration. So every quarter, I just do deeper integration. I just add more and more and more, and we get customer feedback. So it depends, right? And what your question is, when we ship these products, they are coming out as integrated releases, and it's more of a platform type approach. So it's just a question of, hey, is every single piece of functionality there exactly how people expect? And some of that's going to change also based on customer feedback, because we're coming out with a point of view, and the customer's going to say, I don't like it, so we'll go and do more integration there in the future.
Sure.
It's a workflow.
Do you see a day when you have a unified platform in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what do you have a plan for? I mean, I guess I'm really prodding you here. It's like, a year, 2 years before we see like a complete unified platform, that you're currently, personally happy with, you know what I mean? Obviously, it takes time, and obviously right now you're happy, but it's when you're really just like, yeah, this is my vision in my head. You know what I mean?
I think Workspace ONE brings it all together, but I think what you're seeing now is, right, so the Workspace ONE standard will bring you that unification, right, of the platform for those sets of capabilities. And I think maybe a more accurate way to answer your question, right, is kind of in the context of the App Volumes 3.0 and what that means. So let me just explain that, right? So
Sure.
we've got an App Volumes product, we've got a UEM product, we've got a VR Ops product as well, right? That's what we used to call the HAM bundle, right, or the Horizon Application Management bundle for Citrix customers. Now, those sets of technologies are available for for Citrix customers standalone, XenApp customers. It's part of the Horizon Enterprise Suite as well. So initially we had a bunch of products, right, and they were all great on their own merit, but we've had a lot of success with them, and now customers are saying we would like a more integrated experience. So one of the things that my team did, we kind of looked at that, and the first question was, we want a unified admin console. And at VMware last year, I basically challenged people and I said, look, I don't actually think you want a unified admin console, because I think what we'll end up with is you'll end up with a universal remote control with lots of buttons and be really, really confused. Yeah. Right? And I said, what you're really saying is that you want the products to work together in a common way. So one of the massive pieces of work that we've been doing probably for at least 18 to 24 months before my time at VMware, that we looked across all of our products, right? AirWatch and Horizon and all of them. And one of the things our design teams kind of figured out was that there's a lot of commonality between what you do in different products. So for example, right, so Doug's got to set up a product, he's got to configure a product, he's got to deploy a product, right? And I think, and what we realized was that 80% of the functionality in our various consoles is the same, right? And so to really kind of step back and what you really need to say is, well, how do you abstract that so you can have common patterns across your different applications? And the analogy I've kind of used was, well, it's like kind of like baking a cake, right? So let's just analogize that. So when you're going to bake a cake, you need raw ingredients, right? So the raw ingredients could be, flour, sugar, right? Or it could be, settings, security policies, and specific applications. So then what do you do, right? Once you have the raw ingredients of the cake, well, then you apply a recipe, right? And that recipe could be, I want to bake a red velvet cake or a sponge cake or whatever the case may be. And similarly, right, you're going to say, okay, I need to basically define a service, right, for, say, my executive team or my front office team or my HR team or my marketing team, or it could be an educational healthcare example. And then, you've got to then run that recipe, and then that recipe then has to be baked, right? And that's really the deployment piece of it. And then you want to be able to perhaps customize that. So really what we've done in the new admin console, right, in App Volumes 3, which is the same admin console that you get effectively in our kind of, vCloud Air DAS platform, and it will be the same platform inside the Enzo, now known as Horizon Hybrid Mode, right?
Yep.
It's the same experience that we've produced. And now under the covers, you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? So we're using that concept of creating baking a cake or defining a recipe. You can define a desktop in the Enzo / hybrid mode Horizon. But app volumes and UEM and the operations piece are also available in that same console, so they become different ingredients, right? So that's great from a UI concept perspective, but then it really comes down to the technical architecture to say, well, how do you actually make perhaps app volumes or UEM and VROps behave differently, so it's very, very easy for us to add in other screens or other workflows. And what we've really been doing is, looking at kind of the middle layer, and we've basically built an API abstraction layer so that the UI basically talks to an API abstraction layer, which then basically makes calls down to the various products. So we've effectively API enabled all of our products. So kind of, we don't, the marketing teams never talk about this, right? Because it's not exciting to a lot of people except geeks like you and me. But effectively, as I run the engineering, what we've done is we've kind of re-architected the products and we've redesigned them to effectively act like microservices under the covers. Then they talk to a common API layer, which then the UI drives them. So when you do that, and I've spent the last year re-architecting the products, start to do that, then it becomes much easier to put them into different delivery vehicles like Air, like Enzo, like inside a Horizon, or split them off to be separate standalone products for Citrix, or perhaps expand to physical and integrate with AirWatch with Project A Squared. Because you can't do that with 6 different products, right? With all different workflows and different points of view. So I spent the last year kind of bringing that together, and now we're kind of in this process of kind of releasing all of our respective integrations. Right, but now it sets us up as a foundation for the future. And now, if we kind of take that conversation up an even higher level, right, to Workspace ONE, right, a lot of those concepts, right, you'll start to see it in Workspace ONE standard, but advanced is, which is really kind of, ultimately going to be around, unified endpoint management, app security, and DLP. We can start to integrate and bring together, not just, in a foo-foo marketing way, but truly in a technically integrated way. How we do that from the front end all the way back to the administrative experience over time. And I think you'll see us, back to your original question of when am I going to be really excited by the vision. I think, it'll get better and better and better. And I really think, over the next, 12 months, 6 to 24 months, you're going to see a lot deeper integration with all of these products. And you're already seeing the initial fruits of, the last 1 year's work coming out to market now.
I love it. Modern application architecture, MVC programming, right? Model view controller. You can change things around because everything's just APIs between them. I love it. That's the way you do it.
And it's just to be honest with you, right? It's hard to do that.
No,
right?
No, it's very hard. You have to start from. I wouldn't say start from scratch, but you're refactoring. You're spending tons of times almost refactoring applications, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people changes, process changes, right?
Sure.
So cultural things shifts, right? And
sure.
And really what's happening is that, as the development model shifts to deliver much more cloud services style architectures, everything changes, right? So we talk about digital enterprise and what people. It also has an effect on software companies, right? And this is kind of I've learned a lot, right, about how software is developed, but how software needs to be developed moving forward, right? And and doing that transition, it's a lot of fun and games. I'll kind of summarize it at that.
Yeah, no, completely, and I tell you, it all goes back to virtualization. I remember Paul Marantz said, the beauty of virtualization is abstraction. And
Yep.
I think that was one of my favorite quotes of all time, because it's really that the idea of virtualization allowed us to abstract, right, and open up all these different words, like with cloud volumes here, or app volumes now, right? It's just all this. Well, I digress. So, and I love your analogies, Harry. You have the best analogies of anyone I know. Okay, so VMware Horizon 7, what's new?
So the big thing, right, and the one I'm really excited about is just-in-time delivery, right? So you remember Project Fargo that we announced, right? So it's there, it's available, right? So what we called originally the VM fork technology, so the just-in-time desktop technology. So that's available now with Horizon 7 shipping. And the idea there is that this kind of reimagined provisioning, right? So we've always talked about this whole persistent, non-persistent desktop debate, which I'm sure you've seen a million times in different blogs, right?
Sure.
Right. And really kind of, the point of view is kind of let's leverage all of the technology in the SDDC. And it's a core capability now kind of, in the virtualization infrastructure. And you can basically fork a running VM and bring up an instant clone of that desktop, right? The full desktop within a couple of seconds, right? And I think the stat we gave was based on our testing, we could provision 2,000 desktops in about 20 minutes. And that's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Now, so what we've done then on top of that is we've kind of integrated app volumes and UEM into it, right? So you can kind of say, well, I can spawn this new, essentially, desktop in the data center, and I can spawn another instance of it. But now I can start to customize that desktop with a custom set of applications and a custom set of user settings and profiles and all that good stuff. So it all starts to kind of just work, and that happens then. And and in order to make that experience much easier, right? So there's a lot of the work that we've done kind of under the covers, right, with app volumes to make that work differently. So I think with app volumes, what we've done is we've introduced this new thing called app toggle, right? And what that means in let me try and put it as best as I can in layman's terms, right? But layers is the wrong conversation, right? So it's really about we don't want to be in the business of managing lots of layers. So our view has been, hey, what people want to do is manage applications, right? The customer doesn't care what a layer is or what it isn't, and layers is also often not the right technology to solve every use case to build a kind of just-in-time desktop kind of vision. But what we've done in particular with App Toggle is we said, look, you can now do per-user entitlements within an app stack. So only the applications that you're entitled to actually get installed inside the operating system. So so there's no hiding of the application, because if we have a service that hides applications, all you really have to do is be an admin, stop the service, reboot, you get the disk attached, and every application is available to you. So we don't think that's the most secure way to do it. So we only do a merge of the file system and the registry based on what you're actually entitled to in a single app stack or across multiple app stacks. So that gives us a lot of flexibility in the admin model, and it also gives us a lot of benefits around kind of isolation, right? And because we can isolate in the applications within the volume, and we can. The other thing we integrated was that we've integrated ThinApp into this process as well, right? And we just call it app isolation. So you'll start to see ThinApp being more and more integrated into app volumes. So that capability is there. And then the other thing, and I'm sure a lot of people will understand this, right? So application packaging is a ridiculously complex and expensive thing. And my view has been, why? Why do we package applications? Right? It's a fundamental question to ask. And, if I asked a CIO, said, give me a budget for an application packaging team for my iOS environment, then I'll probably be laughed at. There's no reason to do it. So what I've done is kind of taken what we had in the app volumes record process on how we record an application to be provisioned, and we've split that out as a CLI. right? So now you can have kind of a PowerShell kind of interface to that. And you can just say, look, install Office, capture it, right? And it's now available as basically a VMDK or a VHD available to anybody inside the infrastructure. So there's that, and we've done a bunch of other things there. And then, within kind of Horizon, we also added some improvements to the Blast Extreme experience. There's a bunch of improvements there. I don't remember every single one, just to be transparent. I kind of forget, right? The other one I'm really excited about is this concept of smart policies, right? That's coming into the Horizon 7 the product offering. And the way I would think about it is this, right? We've got a number of control points, right, to provide security and policy. So some of those are the broker itself, right? Some of them are the UEM capabilities that we have, and then some of them are with NSX. So what we've done is, instead of, just going back to the integration point, instead of kind of saying, hey, go to 3 different products to configure 3 different sets of policies, which customers would be like, okay, that's just hard. Right? We've started to integrate that and just started to show you this way to do smart policies. So what the customer cares about is setting a smart policy to allow or disallow a specific set of actions within context. Then under the covers, we use whatever technology that we need to do to enforce that, whether it's a broker level control, whether it's an NSX level control, or it's an in-guest UEM type control. It doesn't matter. So that, I think, is a pretty significant thing that a lot of people don't necessarily fully understand yet. That's also part of the integration, though.
Very good. To get rid of packaging in a mobile area, all you have to do is get rid of app wrapping and start using native APIs. So it works wonderfully.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm anti-app wrapping. So
yeah. I'm anti-packaging.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. You can't disagree with that at all. Policies, you don't have to remember them all. I have them all these are the main features written down, but you keep plugging through them, so I keep checking them off as I go through my list. Hybrid mode, you mentioned that, but can you give us some more details on what this hybrid mode is?
Yeah, so you're talking about, formerly known as Project Enzo, right? And really, I think the way I would think about it is that we're really trying to simplify, VDI, right? That whole market. So let's be clear, right? So if we were having this podcast maybe 5-6 years ago, we'd probably be talking about the cost of storage and how storage is really expensive and it's holding back VDI, right? It's one of the biggest choke point there, and I think there's been tremendous, innovation and price drops from all the various storage vendors, right? And you pick them. They've focused on IOPS and read, write, optimization, cost, SSD, flash. There's a million options available there. So now what we've kind of found was, right, that the biggest blocker to adoption is, just complexity, right, and skill sets and bringing it all together. That's what we've kind of found out. And there's always the cynics out there who would say, oh, it's the year of VDI, or every year I see kind of the same set of people just saying, oh, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And I think that if you step back, right, and just look at the financials of just us and Citrix, VDI market's growing, right? I think what people are really saying, oh, it's not 80% penetrated of all Windows devices. Yeah, absolutely, that's true, but it's not growing. The market's actually growing. And what's happening is that because of that, we're investing to make it easier to adopt. And essentially what Enzo is, it's a control plane, right, in the cloud, which allows you to manage hyper-converged, right, and converged infrastructure, which is on premises, right? So it makes the simplicity and setup very highly standardized, right? So you can essentially manage, a box from a set of hardware partners, right? And we will announce, some to start with, and there'll be others added to that. But it's a very prescriptive way to deploy. And the other thing is, things like app volumes and UEM, they'll also be integrated into that solution. So I really think that what it becomes then is it becomes the VDI 2.0 architecture or 3.0, whatever you want to call it, right? It's a better way to do it. And hence that was the feedback from our customers. So what we've done is that in the Horizon 7 packaging, right? So if you're a Horizon 7 customer to whatever level of suite requirement there is, we've actually have an offer out for those folks to also try Enzo, right, or the Horizon hybrid mode. So it's called hybrid mode because it's managed from the cloud and you can converged or hyper converged infrastructure to kind of drive down that simplicity. And that's, I think, is a good step for a lot of customers who are not fully ready to move to a fully hosted desktop infrastructure with our vCloud Air offerings. So I think it just simplifies VDI, right? I think it's going to be the new style of architecture that's going to be pushed by Dell and even our competitors, Nutanix and so on and so forth. And Citrix will go down the same route, right? And I just think that's where the market's going. So this is our foray into it.
Cool. Instant clones.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about instant clones?
So that's the just-in-time desktop.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Blast Extreme. This is a new protocol. Is that what I understand? But it doesn't replace PC over IP. Well, I'm confused. Can you explain Blast Extreme?
Okay, I probably can't explain it as well as the product manager, but here's what. So Blast Extreme is it's been around for a while. So I think VMware announced their HTML5 protocols a couple of years ago. It's basically the improvements of that, and really what Blast Extreme is optimized towards is working in a much more kind of mobile world. So it's really kind of focused on power and battery consumption, richer experiences, high-end workstation. So it's really kind of driving towards that. We absolutely will continue to support PC over IP as well. We have lots of customers, we have lots of thin client integrations and OEMs. So we're giving customers choice, right? And Blast Extreme is just a different type of protocol, which basically uses UDP and TCP. So we can get across different kinds of networks, and we'll start to build out an ecosystem with our OEMs around Blast.
Would you recommend a new customer use Blast Extreme over PC over IP then, or does it matter on what they're doing?
I think it's one of those depends use cases, right? Depends what you're doing, right? And again, we probably have to bring up a grid and kind of double
exactly.
checking.
It always, that's the good consultant's answer is, well, that all depends.
Yeah, but I think Blast is again, right? It's H.264. It's using hardware decoding. It's HTML5. It's modern, right? It's completely VMware's technology, right? So I think that's where a lot of investment will continue to go, right? But again, PC over IP is it's an important protocol for our customers, so it's a choice, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's mature too, and Blast Extreme will definitely get there over the coming months, years, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, so how it is, right? So as the use cases change, right, you have to have different approaches, right? And that's kind of what we've done.
You got it. Well, I won't bug you more on Blast Extreme. I had some more questions, but maybe we'll bring the product manager on and talk about that someday.
Yeah.
App Volumes 3. So this is definitely one of your babies, right? So let's dive into what's new in App Volumes 3.
So like I said, right? So I think there's a number of things. So what I'd say is that we were acquired as Cloud Volumes in 2014. My first goal at Q4 2014 was just to get the product out the door. Right? So we got the product out the door because it was reasonably good for a subset of customers. We spent then most of 2015 adding capabilities, right? Because customer interest wasn't the problem because we were part of VMware, but it was now just driving deployments, learning about what works, what doesn't, enterprise manageability, internationalization, multi-language, all of those things that require you to kind of scale up a product based on where we were acquired in our maturity cycle. So that went really well last year. So App Volumes 3.0, which is just announced, right, is kind of the new architecture, right? It's the how we're going to move forward into this new integrated world that I was talking about. And like I said, right, there's a number of capabilities in there, right? One, I think the most innovative one that we have in there, right? And again, I just have a personal bias calling it that capability because I helped write some of the patent stuff on there. But the app toggle piece, which I think is just doing the per user entitlement, allowing only the applications that you're entitled to install and not hiding the applications is a key capability because you can use that as a single app stack, or you can use it as a multiple app stacks, and you can use it in the physical world that way when we're ready to do that. I think that's a foundational change. It then changes the management model as well with this app capture technology that I described. So now you can separate out. So let's just say I'll give you another analogy since you like my analogies, right? So let's pretend we're building a car, right? and you build the piston rings, and I'm the guy that builds perhaps the cylinder heads. And that's okay, right? Those are the individual applications that can be built. And the tool we use to do that is app capture, right? And we made that very simple, CLI-driven, very Docker-esque was kind of the inspiration that we had. Now, those components arrive. So somebody now has to assemble those components. So what we now do is we allow you to merge those different VHDs or VMDKs into a single VMDK, right, or VHD. So now that you can have distributed production of components, now it comes to the assembly line. We can now assemble them into whatever groups that we want. And then it comes to distribution controls. And those distribution controls, you can say, great, I'm going to distribute them as a bundle with app toggle, so only the subset of applications actually get installed. Or you can say, actually, you know what, I still want multiple layers in this case, and because for different reasons, right? And that's okay too. So you have that flexibility of choice. So I think that, you know, there's a big shift in the thinking there on how we're going to do that and deeper integration. Then I think the other part of it is, you know, the whole concept of scalability, right? So one of the things, you know, we've learned over the years is as you start to build, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of app stacks, well, how do you make them available in different geographies? And should you? And with, you know, you can have an object store which can be replicated globally everywhere. And there's a lot of customers who tell us they don't actually want that. And what all they really want is they want to be able to register different repositories of app stacks to different vCenters, but to provide a global consolidated view so that you can then have the app stack available through a storage group to any subset of applications. And I think that's a very important technology which allows you to basically, you know, store applications locally, but make them available globally without having to do replication, all right? And again, if you want to do replication, we still support it, but it just gives somebody else another mechanism to kind of do that. So, you know, app toggle, the app isolation technology, this whole about kind of this app scalability, their enterprise manageability is a big deal. And then I think the other thing, and again, I'll say it's on a new platform, right? So like I said to you, right, all of these different components are starting to be integrated through a common API layer into a common unified admin experience with patterns, baking cakes, so on and so forth. That's a big deal, right? Under the covers, we've done a lot, right? And it's a different architecture, right? It's you know, Linux OVA is now the manager, is how we distribute it. We've gone away from Windows there. You know, and you can, you know, do a lot more with that architecture.
Okay, and that brings me to another one of your favorites. I imagine, I know you had a lot to do with it, is the User Environment Manager 9. So I believe that's some Medio stuff. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So, you know, we acquired Medio. I think it was like Q1 last year. You know, it went well. We've done some, you know, big deals in there. We've kind of matured and baked the product. I think what you'll see is that it's appearing in different instantiations. So as part of Horizon 7 in the smart policies, it's embedded in there. It's now in App Volumes 3. What we're showing you is the initial integrations, what they look like. You know, in a beta mode, what it looks like in App Volumes 3 as we bring it together. But under the covers, Media, we've done a lot of work, and what you'll actually hear, I think it's, I may get into trouble for this, but it's okay. You can keep it on the podcast, right? But we're going to announce UEM 9.0 probably next week, and what that's going to really be about is really kind of diving into kind of adding new features, right? And we're going to add in things like, you know, smart policies, which I already told you about, which is really kind of enabling administrators to add kind of contextual and dynamic client settings based on various conditions. So there's a lot more there. We're also adding this thing called, you know, app authorization, which is kind of really the ability for administrators to authorize and block any application based on a rich set of conditional policies. So that will give you more kind of those, you know, granular application controls. And we're also going to do a whole bunch of improvements around kind of personalization and configuration of applications across virtualized, you know, both thin app and other vendors applications. So there's a more integrated experience for how you manage settings across different types of application sets. And then we're going to do a bunch of user data management enhancements there as well. So you can basically start to configure folder redirection within UEM there. So, I think, in general, I think, similar to kind of when we acquired, Cloud Volumes was acquired, right? This spent the first year kind of getting the product into the VMware machine, right? Doing all of the things that you need from a security, code improvements, performance improvements way. All of that stuff was kind of done last year. And I think the big first release that we've truly done is this 9.0 release, which adds a lot more of the capability. And then I think, great. Yeah, and then, and then it gets more integrated. So, and, I was saying earlier, I think what happens is in the context of, app volumes and UEM, we have these conversations as technologists around, UEM is this and layers is this, or app virtualization is this. And our thinking really is about, look, when you're talking to a customer, what they're really trying to do is they're trying to get to do their work, and they need access to their applications and their services. So for us, it's really about the reason we're integrating them is to say, hey, we'll use, if you need a layer type app stack type technology, great, we have that technology. If you need a more granular in-guest, app blocking or user profile or whatever technology, that's also there as well. If you need, whatever imaging technology, all of that stuff, it should be abstracted from the customer. Really what they want to do is say, I want to be able to deploy applications to my customers and keep them happy. And that's why App Volumes 3.0 is becoming a suite, right? And really that's why it's now also available in 3 different editions, standard, advanced, and enterprise. And it's really key to understand that what we're really doing is the conversation we're having with our customers is about solving the application lifecycle management problem. We're not talking about a specific technology, whether it's UEM or app layering, because that to me is just like saying I have one technology. It's like, hammer, meet, nail. And right, and that doesn't work either in our point of view.
You got it. It really, it sounds like the app volume stuff is moving over, like you said, it's not about layering, it's more about containers. So you guys are moving more into and you even mentioned Docker too, right?
Yeah, and I think, inspiration. So, like, let's just think about it in terms of phases, right? Like, why is it hard to produce an application in Windows that's available for enterprise distribution? So we've just tried to simplify that, right? Then you want reliable install. So that's why we've got things like, the layering core technology, which does its magic, right? And that's great. But then, how do you then make it available and distributed and managed across a multi-center, multi-data center, multi-network world? How do you do that? Then how do you then update and patch and all of that? What do those workflows look like? And then, hey, what about my different environments, right? How do I have consistency between physical and virtual and cloud, right? And then how do I improve performance? How do I drive scalability? And I think a lot of people, what they don't understand is, right, because App Volumes doesn't, it can sit on top of somebody else's image, so we're not trying to control the image. So how do you track all of those applications attaching and detaching all over the planet across thousands of machines? There's a lot of engineering there, right? A lot of engineering that people just skip over.
Yep.
How scalable is it? I'm like, you have no idea how hard that is to do.
Yep. Makes total sense. And then I would also say, from listening to you and going through all the release stuff that you guys posted and videos and what have you, the story's really integration, right? It's you finally have sort of an integrated solution or integrated mindset, and that's the Workspace ONE. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, no, I think so, and I think you're seeing all of that come, and I think there's a lot we didn't announce, and that's all the non-glory work that the engineering teams have been doing for the last year or so.
Sure, exactly. The stuff the engineers forget about, or the consultants / in the trenches engineers forget about, but is usually the secret sauce to any application, right? The stuff that we don't know, and that's a good thing because it just works.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of, like I was saying, right? So running the teams internally, I've just developed a much deeper appreciation for what it takes to build all this stuff. And like we're not going to run on stage at VMworld and say, "Great, we've done an API integration with X, Y, and Z," because nobody really cares, right? And, but it's like I got to give a shout out to the teams. I think they just do an amazing job.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, huge shout out. I think to all of VMware EUC right now. Like I'd mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I think you guys are firing on all cylinders right now, and it's neat to see because, I just sit out here in the middle. I'm just, this guy that does podcasting and run a website, right? So, I don't have a horse in the race. I don't really care. I just want the world to move forward as fast as possible. And what you guys are doing from, under the hood, the marketing stuff, the sales stuff, the partner relation, the product, you name it, on all fronts, you guys are really doing a great job. And I don't give out those type of compliments lightly. I truly mean that. It's impressive to watch something being executed properly, in my opinion. So it's not, kudos to all of EUC. And I know that's not just your team. It's not just, it's everybody. And of course, you got to say kudos to Sean Bass too. We got to throw his name in there, right?
Of course.
We have to say Sean Bass, One of the nicest people I ever met is Sean Bass.
Absolutely, and it's great to have Sean on board. And I think if you ask Sean, right, and when he joined, and when you are going to have the internal all hands, and one of the things that he said was that in his assessment of joining us was he was really looking at the people. And I think if you then go listen to Sanjay, and when he talks to us about how it was when he first joined here. There's been a really, really kind of deep focus on the people, and I think I think just watching Sanjay's just focus on that, right? Getting the culture right. If you get the culture right, good things start to happen. There's a lot of smart people, right, and who will figure out a lot of problems if they feel inspired and motivated to do it. I think that's what you're really seeing as the net result from your perspective.
And set free to make a difference and do their jobs and not be limited by maybe upper management. And I find it interesting because a lot of you guys are old Citrix people and or come, obviously come from this Citrix world because Citrix was there to begin with, right? Before, anything. And it's just wonderful to see. I know a lot of you guys from just my years and I just can't give the kudos out enough. I'm thoroughly impressed, and I'm not saying that, or just saying that. I truly mean it. So on that note, Harry, I want to just take a couple more minutes and throw a couple things at you and just get your take on it. You free for that?
Sure.
Okay. Mobility. Where do you see mobility? And this doesn't have to be VMware centric, right? Just mobility. Where do you see mobility going in the next 1, 2, 5 years?
So I think there's a couple of dimensions to that, right? So I think there's this whole concept of digital workspace. I'm a big believer in that, right? And I think that's a space that will play out and will evolve and get better. I think the other thing is going to be around applications, right? The number of applications that get built and how they get built, and I think you're going to see a lot more of these micro applications appearing and task-based applications. But my concern there is, how many of them are really going to get built, right? It's kind of the law of, what do they call it, social media, that you can only have 150 friends. Well, what I worry about, are we going to just have thousands of micro applications that really do nothing and just clog up, screen real estate? So I do think that we're going to see a consolidation and more clarity around what do we truly want to do on different screen sizes. And I think that's going to become more clear. And I don't know if Office or whatever the future of those kinds of applications will be. So I think there's a whole thing there. And then I think the other thing of mobility is naturally going to kind of morph into, well, what about things like IoT and sensors and different kinds of devices, and how does that all come together?
Yep.
And I think we're going to think a lot about devices, and what we're going to realize is like, oh my God, right? This is going to go back to IT 1.0. We don't know how to manage it, we don't know how to secure it, and we have no idea why people hate it, right? Right? And so think about monitoring, analytics, security. It's wide open. We're just reinventing the stack, right?
Yeah.
Right,
and Internet of Things change. That was the next, buzzword, or I think IoT is huge. It's just huge. It changes everything. Everything's being connected. Things that we never thought would be connected. My favorite is the umbrella. Yeah. And my light bulb. I mean, you name it. And you laugh at, people laugh at something like the light bulbs, but it's working its way into businesses. And, where in the past light bulbs were added by, installed by facilities, now they might be being installed by facilities, but they're being managed by IT.
Right.
And all those have IP address, and blah 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 blah, and IPv6, and I mean, it's just changing. How do you manage its security, right? When my light bulb can be hacked, that might be a problem. Not that big of a problem, but the light bulb is the least of it. So, Internet of Things. What do you think? Again, not VMware, just in general. What do you think of that whole Internet of Things thing?
I think no one's figured out how to make any money out of it yet, except very, very specific use cases, right? I think, it's interesting, a lot of the stuff that GE is doing, sensors in machines and so on and so forth. But I just think, the Internet of Things is going to be just a giant mess, right, for IT for a while until we get our heads around it, because there's no standards. There's no, standard communication, between devices. Nobody knows how to guarantee, security, visibility. I think there's a sea of opportunity there.
Yeah.
I think, man, like long time, very specific use cases. And I think a lot of people get excited about, hey, if everything can talk to everybody, what becomes possible? I think it's a very inspirational question to ask. I guess I would ask the next double-click question, well, show me the use case that is truly compelling that someone's going to spend money on. And I think some of the larger, industry manufacturer type companies will certainly have uses for it because they're very specific use cases. But then when you go beyond that, what do you do, right? So, I don't know, do you put sensors in your suitcase so you can find them at the airport so you can track it on your phone?
Yeah.
I think the human mind is very creative, but the truly compelling use case. So I think you'll see a lot of companies, start up and go nowhere. I think you'll go through this bubble phase, and then we'll start to figure out, like, what does it mean? But man, I think in terms of going back to that inspirational big question, what is possible? I think it'll go back down to the people who will make money is, the old analogy of, the people who found looking for gold didn't make money. The people who sold the shovels did. Yeah, and I think it'll start to reinvent the IT infrastructure almost just as much as, containers could potentially be or are being disruptive to application infrastructure. We could see the same thing with, devices and sensors just ripping everything apart, right, and changing the rules of the game again.
You got it. I had an interesting conversation a while ago with Steve Greenberg. Steve, and a long time, EUC type of guy, and one of the earliest, I would say. And we were arguing, is there a killer app for Internet of Things? And I said no, because the Internet of Things is sort of like the highway, but it's not like the browser to internet or email. It's so I'll just throw that. Do you think there's like a killer app or the potential, or would it? The Internet of Things is really something bigger than all that, right?
Yeah. So if I had the killer app, I wouldn't tell you. I'd go do another startup.
I guess that's true. So something to think about. It's I've asked that a bunch of times to people because it was such a good conversation I had with them. So I have to ask Citrix. So, VMware is definitely, you mentioned them a few times, and you guys have Citrix, offerings where, migrate to VMware. How do you guys, I'll just throw it at you. Citrix, go.
I mean, Citrix is, look, I have a lot of respect for Citrix, right? So, I mean, I'll always have that, respect, always. Right? And I, when I got my break, I would say, right, from moving from kind of the Wall Street to the vendor side. So, that's the first thing I want to say, just get that on the table. And I think, Citrix has clearly gone through some changes and challenges. Excuse me. And look, I think, Citrix is kind of in this phase of, refocusing. And they're going to focus on the kind of core Zen apps, Zen desktop mobility business. We'll see what happens with the CWC business, if that's real or not, or how long that takes. And, yes, they're doing great on NetScaler. So shout out to Klaus Osterman there. Right. But again, I think what we're seeing now is that the conversation from our perspective, right, is shifting. Right now, the conversation is becoming around, how do you manage Windows devices? Should you manage things the same way? What about the physical environment? What about identity? So to me, again, with the greatest respect, I don't see how Citrix plays in those various different markets, right? So I think they're very focused, and I think it makes sense to go back to the core and do a better Zen app and so on and so forth. But I think the conversation for EUC is shifting, and I really see kind of, there's a couple of players there, right? I think it's really Microsoft, right? And I think that they're kind of now espousing the whole EMS vision. I think it's us now saying, hey, with our assets, with things like AirWatch and so on and so forth. So I think it's just getting harder and harder for a lot of the point solutions, whether it's companies like Okta and Ping Identity, whether it's companies like Mobileyeon or Good, right? Well, Good's been acquired now, right? But and even Citrix, that they're going to have to carve out because they don't have a stack of solutions, a different value proposition, right? That's there, and yeah, they're always going to have a core business and a loyal fan base that does certain things. But I think where customers are going is looking for a broader kind of EUC. I mean, what does EUC even mean, right?
Yeah.
All right, they're like, well, what does that really mean? It doesn't mean Zen App, Zen Desktop, right? Or even what VMware Horizon. It means so much more.
I mean, it's changing all the time too now with mobility. Right.
So when you bring that together, and that's where you see us kind of start to talk about this digital workspace thing, and whether you agree with that term or not is a separate conversation. But I think if anybody's honest, right, is to say, look, the needs are changing, right? The work, like you said earlier, right? Millennials are entering the workforce. The expectation is different. Behavior inside corporations is changing, and we've got all sorts of norms that are being challenged and questioned, and that means you need a new stack, right? Different kinds of apps, different kinds of connectivity, different devices, and they need to be secure. You need visibility, and that means there's going to be, I think, a vertical stack EUC companies that emerge that offer you more complete solutions, so that customers. So customers will have to choose, right? Do you want something that's more vertically integrated, or do you want to have different things for different areas, and then figure out how to integrate them? It's just like kind of cloud providers, right? People are going to the cloud because they want just give me one place to go and make it easy.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like you're saying Citrix will be left in the dust.
Well, I think Citrix will consolidate, and then they're going to have to find a value proposition that's truly compelling, right? That fits where the world is going. Whether they're left in the dust or not, I mean, it's like, who am I, right?
Yeah, well, that's...
I wouldn't be disrespectful in that sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, so we're all here because of Citrix. As I always say, I'm sitting here talking to Harry Labana at VMware because I found Citrix in '97. Everyone has to remember Citrix is the one that created this remote desktop in Windows, XP, Windows 7, Windows Vista, whatever, is all Citrix technology, and you got to respect those guys to no end. But it's you can't just rest on your laurels forever, and the world is changing. It's changing fast. And so in return, we're seeing this consolidation that really, it sounds like what you guys are talking about with Workspace ONE is bringing that all together and integrating it tightly as a suite of offerings that work together, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think, for us, we're focused on that. So we're aware of competitors, but we're not obsessing over competitors.
No, absolutely not.
What we're obsessing off is, are we actually building something that's really good, of compelling value, that solves a real need?
Right? To be honest with you, Harry, what I've noticed from an outsider, and I don't have I don't have a lot of insight into VMware. I have a better insight into Citrix. Is that you guys have a vision, you've defined a vision, and you're executing upon that vision. And so in return, you look at the competition. You look at the changing markets because you have to, right? But really, you're on a mission, and you're moving forward instead of saying, okay, well, our mission just changed. Oh, our mission just changed. Oh, IoT, now we're going to do this. Oh, it's something, we're going to do this, right? And that is what impresses me most about VMware right now. And again, I'm not just saying this; I truly mean it. Is that it's nice to see that commitment to what you guys seem to believe in. Am I wrong by saying that, or is that spot on?
No, I think you're capturing it accurately, because I think VMware. When I competed against VMware, I would say it was EUC was kind of like the ugly duckling, right, in the company.
Well, you guys were server people. It was a server DNA, and now you get into a different world, and you got server guys that don't understand the space, and it takes time to understand that space. and you start bringing in the right people, Sanjay, Sumit, a longtime Citrix guy he'd been there in the early days of Citrix, guys like you, guys like Sean, many people, Dennis even, got a shout out to Dennis,
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
I think one of the things that Sanjay has done, right, that I personally have a lot of respect for is I think he's been the greatest cheerleader for EUC at VMware. And he's put us on the map. I think we're now the second largest business after compute inside VMware. And now people, they have to care, right? And that's shifting some of the things. And I think, and the only way we've achieved that is by, first of all, kind of accepting that we weren't in a good place, right? Making the changes, setting the cultural tone, focusing on a vision, and as you say, right, driving towards execution. And I think as long as we continue to do that, right, I'm sure we'll have some slip-ups and we'll have to make some left turns and right turns along the way. I expect that. But I think fundamentally, I honestly believe that we're doing something that's greater than, either one of us individually, right, is capable
Absolutely.
of. Right?
Absolutely. You guys are good. Something's greater than the sum of its parts, or the sum is greater, whatever that phrase is. So, I definitely see that. It's like I said, it's really, really neat to see. I've been enjoying watching it, and from a complete outsider, really, really enjoying watching it.
Yeah.
So, by the way, you mentioned Klaus. I think Klaus is Citrix's best asset, personally.
We love Klaus. Yeah,
I love Klaus Osterman. I think he's Citrix's best asset outside of technology. Harry, I've taken up a lot of your time, so I'll go ahead and call this a podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it, as always. You're truly one of my favorite people to chat with. Your analogies and everything. Well, you mentioned a cake I've never even heard of. I forget I should have written it down so I can try it. So anyway, you have an exquisite taste buds too. On that note, I'll go ahead and give you the last word. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me today. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I appreciate your time, especially on a busy week, because I know this is launch week. So to give you to give me your time is like, oh, I'm so honored.
Yeah, no, thank you, Doug, and thank you, anybody who listened. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes another successful episode of DABCC Radio. As always, I want to thank my guest for today, Harry Labana from VMware. I've known Harry for quite some time, and just he's a great guy. He really, honestly is. He's a good person and very bright and educated and good guy all the way around. So I'm a Harry Labana fan and always have been. So on that note, guys, definitely check out what they're doing. There's tons of announcements. Or they had tons of announcements. We'll throw some in the show notes. Head on over to videos.dabcc.com, and you can watch all their videos there, too. It's a great place to stay up with what VMware's doing. They release videos all the time. So videos.dabcc.com, and sign up for the Daily Digest, and you'll get an email every single day that's talking about what's new and or showing you what's new. Not talking. It doesn't do any talking. Just lists the new videos. It's that simple. It's that clean. It's the whole idea is clean, beautiful, fast. Clean, beautiful, fast. Clean, beautiful, fast. Say it 3 times. Repeat it. So again, thanks everyone. Soon, very soon, within a week or two, there's going to be a brand new dabcc.com. So head on over to www.dabcc.com. Refresh and check it out, see if it's there yet. If not, check the next day. It'll be a couple weeks, so depending on when you're watching this, but completely rebuilt from the ground up with the idea of what? Fast, clean, beautiful. Fast, clean, beautiful. Fast, clean, beautiful. And really, really useful. So it's about signal over noise, right? So I think I've done a good job on that. I'm really proud of it. I can't wait to release it. I have some work left to do, as any good engineer always does. So what else I say? Again, thanks to the VMware guys, thanks to Harry and team, and big kudos to the VMware team. I'm not saying that, or I'm not just saying that. I thoroughly mean it, and that's a well-earned thoroughly mean. I don't. What do I say? I've been vocal against VMware for years because I thought they did a poor job, and I can't say that anymore. It's just they've done a beautiful, beautiful job. So really kudos to to Sanjay and his team over there. And what Harry didn't mention is they've just crossed the $1 billion mark in EUC, and that's a big kudos to all the team. Thousands of people at VMware that have made that possible. So what else do I say? But thank you for making DABCC Radio a success. www.dabccvideos.dabcc. Follow me, Douglas A. Brown, on Twitter, or follow DABCC at DABCC. On that note, thank you for listening to what? DABCC Radio.
Can you say DABCC?
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.